was trying to keep the questions up and my typing. But then I realized when I was typing, not really doing anything with the questions. We'll read the question, I'll take the word, we'll switch the screen, and I will do the typing. That way, I can make it bigger. Actually, it was pretty obvious. Once I did it, I was like, "Oh, this makes a lot more sense." But today we're gonna do question 3 and 4. If we have time, maybe number 5. So here we are. Glenn found himself in a difficult something when his car broke down far from the nearest town, and he discovered that his cell phone's battery dead. So this is a difficult situation. It's a situation that's bad. His car broke down, so his car stopped working, and his cell phone's battery was dead. So his battery has no more power. The words synopsis, apparition, predicament, and brawl. So we're going to start with my new system didn't work so well when I started. Synopsis. It's like a summary. Look at that, it's much bigger on the screen. That's way better. I didn't have time to read the whole book, so I read a synopsis on the internet. Good. That's good. You get one full sentence, but then I would like you to see the second sentence. I'd like to see the 2 sentences together. So I didn't have time to read the whole book, so I read a short summary of the book on the internet. It's not too bad. A synopsis, basically, if you have a movie like I immediately start thinking of movies that have like a trilogy. All the movies that come out now have trilogies. What's a very recent movie that I've seen that has? So I saw Mission Impossible with my family, but the synopsis of Mission Impossible is it's another Mission Impossible. He does the exact same thing again. The world is in danger, and Tom Cruise, I forget Tom Cruise's character's name, has to save the world. And he has to jump off something. That's not a good synopsis. We're being honest. That is not a good synopsis. Totoro, the story that everyone knows in Japan. The synopsis of Totoro is 2 little girls and their father move out to the countryside, and they meet a magical being who takes them on some adventures. The little sister gets lost, and everyone tries to find her. So it's not all the details, but it's enough information for you to understand the main idea of the story. Apparition. Space. An apparition, I think, is a ghost. It's not really just a ghost. It's an image. But the image isn't like on paper. It's an image that you see. So an image in your vision. So if I say an image, you might just think of a picture. That's not right. It would be like I'm looking down a hallway and I see an apparition. A ghost is better, but it's not necessarily a real. Maybe let's change that. Seeing something that isn't there. Ooh, that is like a ghost, though. So the only time I would use apparition is if I was talking about a ghost or something like a ghost. When would it have? So the problem is because I think ghosts aren't real, I would never talk about an apparition as if it was a real thing. That becomes a problem. An apparition. Well, the classic one. He was lost in the desert, and there was an apparition of an oasis in front of him. So this happens in movies and in media. When people get lost in the desert and in the far distance, they will see an oasis, but the oasis is not really there. In a ghostly image of an oasis. He was lost in the desert, and there was a ghostly image of an oasis in front of him. But the problem is that the oasis is not actually there. Ooh. Predicament. Predicament is a problem. Usually a situation. So there you go. That's going to be our answer. The computer wouldn't start. I needed to print my report. It was a difficult predicament. That's not even too bad. Predicament might not be the right word for that situation. So you can see how much problems Glenn, his car is broken, he's far away from a town, and he has no cell phone. That's dangerous. My computer wouldn't start. I needed to print my report. It was okay. How about this? A bit of a predicament. So it was not the biggest problem, but it was a little problem. My girlfriend. Well, let's fix that. Let's do the simple version example. My computer wouldn't start. I needed to print my report. It was a bit of a problem. I was thinking like my girlfriend saw me with my sister, but thought I was cheating on her. It was a terrible predicament. So that's the same thing. Like you can just see it's just a situation, it's a problem, it's hard to fix. So his girlfriend's very angry, so she won't listen to him. She won't listen to what he says. My girlfriend saw me with my sister, but thought I was cheating on her. It was a terrible situation. Predicament is always negative. I think that's the important thing to remember. Okay, let's do the last word. Brawl. Brawl is a big fight with many people. Oh, big, not. I typed bite, fight, big fight with many people, or a very ugly fight. So you think about boxing. Good boxing is supposed to be very technical. And it can be very beautiful because they move so well. But when they maybe get angry at each other or the boxing isn't very good, it's just a brawl. It's just a very ugly, bam, bam kind of situation. But usually when we use brawl, I think, again, a movie situation, it's either you go into a bar and then a fight starts in the bar and then everyone joins in the fight. That's a brawl. So I think of a brawl as a fight with many people, a big, big fight with many people. So I use that for my, no. Okay. It's always baseball. Got hit by the ball. Thought it was on purpose. So he attacked the picture. Because this has happened many times. Not all of his teams. It has to be both teams. Both teams ran onto the field to fight. It was a massive brawl. They actually have a phrase like a bench clearing brawl because all the baseball players will sit on a bench. And so when the baseball players all get off the bench to fight, they call it the bench is empty. It's a bench clearing. And it's a big, big fight. So that's the brawl. The baseball player. Do it again. The baseball player got hit by the ball. He thought it was on purpose. So he attacked the pitcher. Both teams ran onto the field. Should be field. Fight. Let me fix it up here. Both teams. I.e. I.e. One more time. The baseball player got hit by the ball. He thought it was on purpose, so he attacked the pitcher. Both teams ran onto the field to fight. It was a massive brawl. So of our words, we have synopsis, apparition, predicament, and brawl. We said that Glenn found himself in a difficult situation, so it's predicament. Glenn found himself in a difficult predicament when his car broke down far from the nearest town and he discovered that his cell phone's battery was dead. It's interesting because I think if you just say predicament, we know the situation is negative, but we often add another word. We're going to say bad, difficult, awful, predicament, which makes it seem like predicament is neutral and you need that negative description, but it's not. If you just said, it was a bit of a predicament, I would know that the situation was bad. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that until just now when we were doing it. Number 4. Concert made a something impression on Matt. Even years later, he often said that he could remember it as if it was yesterday. So he went to a concert. It made a strong impression on Matt. He's saying years and years after he saw the concert, he could remember it very, very well, perfectly in his mind. He can remember how good this concert was. Obstinate, abridged, indelible, and evasive. These are some hard words, if I'm being honest. It with obstinate. Obstinate means stubborn or will not change. He is very obstinate means, well, there you go. There's our example. My boss doesn't listen to people when they correct him. He is so obstinate. We sometimes have to what? Avoid his input. Oh, that's a very common problem with bosses. So you have a boss, and maybe the boss is in charge of a group of engineers, and really the engineers know more about the situation or the problem than the boss. And the boss wants to give advice, but the engineers can't do that because it will be wrong, but also he's the boss, so you can't say he's bad or wrong. That is a real problem that real people have all the time. It also happens with, let's say we have technology and you have an older boss and he doesn't really know how to use technology. And so the young people are always very frustrated because they won't listen to him and he won't learn. That would be obstinate. I would be the same with like any situation where someone is stubborn and will not change what they do. So basically, obstinate is just another word for stubborn. My boss doesn't listen to people when they correct him. He is so stubborn. We sometimes have to avoid his input. So we have to avoid talking to him about problems, even though he's the boss and he's supposed to help us. I kind of want to look up obstinate on the dictionary just to check. Stubbornly. Oh, look at that. It's the exact same word. Stubbornly adhering to an opinion, purpose, or course in spite of reason. So they're saying even if it's wrong, they still do it. You can argue or try to persuade them. You can try to change their mind and they will stay to it. So this is maybe even stronger than stubborn Stubborn, maybe you have a stubborn person in your life, but if you talk to them enough, they will change their mind. An obstinate person refuses to change their mind. Okay, that's interesting. Abridged. Up here we had synopsis. Abridged is very similar, if I'm being honest. Oh, abridged. Good, spelled that right. I was worried. I get very worried about spelling things on the internet in front of people because I make a lot of mistakes when I'm typing, and then people think I don't know how to spell. Luckily, Word catches most of my mistakes. Abridged. This is cut down to be shorter, usually story. So we have a book. The book is 1,000 pages long. And then I can get an abridged version, which is 500 pages long. So you're missing a lot of the story or a lot of the details, but they've cut out a lot of the words to make it shorter. So it's easier for you to read and it's faster. In Japan, some people have gotten arrested for posting abridged versions of movies on the internet. So some people, I read a news story, and what they do is they take a movie and they cut it down to just the most important bits. So you can watch like a 2-hour movie in about 5 or 10 minutes. I think they're calling it fast movies or something. But that is a super abridged. I mean, abridged means cut stuff down, make it shorter. But it doesn't mean like cut it down to so it's only a tiny bit. It would be cutting it down so it's faster to read. Wait, abridged versions. Posting edited or cut down versions of movies on. It should be. I have to read my own. Okay, let's read this sentence very carefully because I've just made 2 mistakes. Some people have gotten arrested for posting abridged versions of movies on the internet. That is correct. Some people have gotten arrested for posting edited versions of movies on the internet, or some people have gotten arrested for posting cut down versions of movies on the internet. Indelible. Indelible means you cannot erase. But the way they're using it in this version is you cannot forget. So if you look in the dictionary, the first one is going to be not erasable. So I'm going to give you the 2 sentences for both types. I wrote on the whiteboard. If you are an English teacher, you've done this in front of your class and it's very embarrassing. I wrote on the whiteboard with an indelible marker and couldn't erase it. So you write on the whiteboard, there are whiteboard markers, they have alcohol in them. If you get a regular marker, like a coloring marker, and you write on the whiteboard, and then you go to erase it, it won't come off. Now, luckily, if you get the alcohol, the whiteboard marker, and you color over the indelible marker, it will erase after that. You just need that alcohol, or you could take alcohol spray or something. That's something I learned very quickly when I was a new teacher. So I wrote on the whiteboard with I'm going to have to say, permanent? Permanent. It should be E, not A. It should be A, not E. I wrote on the whiteboard with a permanent marker and couldn't erase it. I wrote on the whiteboard with a marker you cannot erase and couldn't erase it. Yeah. That doesn't, that's not a very good sentence. We don't like to use the same word twice in the same sentence. But again, this is just so you get the right idea. Right now, friction pens in Japan are very popular. They are erasable. Whereas I have a pen here and it has just regular ink. The ink in that is indelible. So the idea here for the way your memory works, I see something and it is written in my memory and it's so strong I cannot erase it. It could be positive, it could be negative. That's very important. So this is the answer for this one. The concert made an indelible impression. So this impression was so strong, it will not go away. He will remember it forever. Even years later, he often said that he could remember it as if it were yesterday. So my wedding day is an indelible memory. My wedding day is a day I will never forget. It's that simple. The feeling of an indelible memory, though, is like if in the movies you get hit in the head and you forget everything, you have amnesia. Still, I would still remember my wedding day. And that's actually the plot point they're making in those movies, that inside there's this permanent mark that never goes away. So if you see in the movie and they go, I know you're still in there, is a very common phrase for this kind of situation. What they actually mean is there's an indelible memory inside you and you can still get to it and come back to me. That's very movie style drama. Evasive. Trying to avoid. So this can be both physically and verbally in a situation. So my first two thoughts, my one for physically is an airplane. So I will just do that's our example. The missile was going to hit the airplane. I mean, like a fighter airplane, like in the military. The missile was going to hit the airplane. And the pilot did some, and they call this is a phrase, evasive maneuvers. Ooh, I spelled it right. I was very worried about spelling maneuvers. And it missed him. So the missile was going to hit the pilot, hit the airplane. I would have to take, since we used and, we don't want to use and twice. Pilot did some evasive maneuvers and it missed him. So the missile was going to hit the airplane. The pilot dodged. That's another difficult word, though. The pilot did some. Pilot moved out of the way. Now, this would imply very quickly. So, an invasive maneuver would not be like the airplane is flying. I can make sure I'm in the camera. The airplane is flying, and then the missile's coming, and then he just goes, ooh. No, this would be like, very dramatic, very exciting. This is the kind of thing you would see in a movie. An airplane is flying, and a missile's, and then it dives down, or something very exciting happens. That's evasive. Now, the other way I said it was verbally. I asked my employee why he came into work late, and he was very evasive. Ooh. I asked my employee why he was late for work, and he tried to avoid answering the question. So the idea here is that I say, why are you late for work? And he says, how are you doing this morning? And I say, no, I'm fine. But why were you late for work? And he says, I'm really tired today. So he's trying to not answer the question. He's trying to say something else, hoping you would forget that your question. And then maybe he gets talking about something else. So you are trying to get an answer and he's trying to not give you that answer. He still has to talk though. So if I say, why were you late for work? And he says nothing, that's not being evasive. If he tries to talk about something else, like, why are you late for work? Did you see the baseball game last night? It was really good. And he starts talking. He's trying to avoid answering the question. You could be evasive physically. My boss is looking for a report and I am being evasive means like I go to a different room or I work in a different office or I try to not be in the same area as my boss so he can't catch me. So this is after the summer break. Took a few weeks off. And last week I was just very tired, so I just slept in if I'm being really, really honest. Trying to get back to Sounds Great English. We did 2 questions. It's about 20 minutes. That's great. If you have any questions or comments, you can send an email to soundsgreatenglish@gmail.com. And you can find us on youtube.com/@soundsgreatenglish. And I will make sure I wake up on time next week and we will come back and do some more Eiken. I am still looking for some music. I'm trying to try to find some music. So I have a nice intro music and outro music. But I'll just do now. Do 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 do. Sounds great.